Let me say, first of all, thank you for being here. I'm here as chairman of the London School of Economics, which has a long history of engagement in Spain. But I'm also here to talk about education, which has been an important part of my life. In 1986, it was actually in 1985, I was commissioner for education for 1 year in the European Union. And at that time, I proposed for the first time the Erasmus program. So I've a connection with Erasmus over a very long period of time. To say one word about Erasmus, I think it has been a phenomenal success and one of the most positive initiatives that the European Commission has taken. And it's notable that Spain has both the highest proportion of students availing of Erasmus and traveling to other European countries as a result, and also it is the most favored destination for students studying on Erasmus programs. With 39,000 students traveling to Spain. Yeah. I would also like to say that at this time of economic difficulty in Europe, education has to be emphasized as a crucial component in finding a route to recovery and a future for our young people. There is a paradox here, and the paradox is that although we have a very large number throughout Europe of young people who are described as NEETs, that is, not in education, employment, or training. We also have a developing demographic problem in Europe, where a significant number of young people will be required to fill jobs in the future. So this is a paradox. It's a paradox, the answer to which has to be found in education and training. One other point that I would make as a preliminary point, which applies to all of Europe. McKinsey recently conducted a survey which established across Europe that 2/3 of young people believe that vocational training is less valued than third-level training of a more general kind. It's less valued by society. But 70% say that they would prefer it to non-vocational training for themselves. I think that there is a problem in terms of attitude to vocational training, which is not valued as it should be, even though I'm speaking as chairman of a famous university. I think that that point needs to be made. And it's notable that in Germany, where unemployment is running at 7.9% only, vocational training and the linkages between business and education are very strong, and as is the apprenticeship system. But I am not devaluing third level education as a whole, because any form of post-secondary education is necessary and desirable. I think the figure is about 30% in Spain, and obviously increasing that percentage is desirable. In some respects, at least, Spanish achievement in education is considerable when one looks at the business schools, with 2 in the top 10 and a third very close to it.
Top 10 in the world?
Yeah. Irishmen talk forever, so I'd better stop. I think that it is an improvement. I think it's good. I think it has a positive value. I think that the idea of Erasmus from the beginning has been helpful. I have no real comment on it because I know very little about the detail. I know that research conducted by Nick Barr, an academic in LSE, has established that those who have done Erasmus through any faculty gain significantly in employability as a result of their knowledge of different cultures, that it is viewed as a positive in employment terms. I'm disappointed that the British take-up has been very poor for Erasmus. Maybe that is an attitudinal thing to Europe. I think that the original idea was to spend a year studying in another university. All that I can say is that we're living in difficult economic times. Governments take difficult decisions. I don't want to be critical of a government decision in another country. It's not for me to do that. I just simply make the general observation that the longer people spend abroad, the better, I think. It's a very good question, but again, it's a political question, which I'm reluctant to answer because in principle, one is in favor of the maximum number possible being able to avail of studying, but choices have to be made, sometimes which are difficult. And I really shouldn't, I think, enter into a debate about whether the government's policy in this is right or wrong. I know that this is terrible as far as you are concerned, but I have to watch my back. What I do know is that Spanish students are very highly regarded outside Spain. We have a significant number in LSE at any given period of time, and I think that we've had a very significant number for a very prolonged period of time. So we have some knowledge of Spain, and I think that the attitude to young Spanish students has been extremely positive, that they are considered to be very good. We have about, on average, we have 60 to 65 Spanish students at any one time. It's difficult to get into LSE, so they're obviously very good. 75% of these are postgraduates. We have a number of scholarships given. We have 3 MSc, Master of Science, one kind or another, from La Caixa. We have 4 to 5 MSc scholarships from Ramón Areces here. We have a number of others. We have the Juan María Nin scholarship. We have 2 scholarships from CEBAP in Catalonia, and up to 4 from Liberbank. So we have a number of Spanish scholarships, which are attempts to overcome the cost difficulties for young people. I think that the high levels of unemployment in Spain are the result of many causes not directly related to education. And we all know what some of those causes have been: the property bubble, the overall economic climate, the fact that consumption as a result has decreased, that the domestic economy has had some difficulties of a very severe kind, shared by many of the peripheral economies in the European Union. So I don't think that education, or the absence of education or training, is the direct cause of the high unemployment rates in Spain. It's more related to general economic conditions. I don't feel that I'm an expert on the training available in Spain, and therefore I have some difficulty in commenting on it. I think that we have more and more objective evidence available as to the quality of education in different countries. For an example, the OECD PISA results give an indication of how different countries rank in secondary education. Secondary education, for me, is a very important component in the employability and development of young people. For an example, the highest position in the world in mathematics today is occupied by China. And mathematical training and training in maths seems to be directly related to overall education standards and employability. And I think that that's an important element, but I don't really feel qualified to comment on the relative standing of Spanish education. All I know is that the young people that I see are very well qualified. I do note, however, that in the university league tables, excluding the business school league tables, the first Spanish university is ranked at 154, which is not a high ranking. Now, you can argue that indices give an imperfect analysis of quality. And indeed, there are some good reasons for saying that. They assess some things that may be disadvantageous for one university as opposed to another, and so on. But it still gives a general feeling. I mean, there are 34 British universities, I think, in the top 200.
34?
And I say that with great hesitation as an Irishman. But let me make another point. I love Spain. I know Spain very well for many years. And I don't like to see, no more than I also do not like to see my own people leaving and going to other places. Having said that, young people have to have the right to travel and to work elsewhere, to get experience and to come home. And if you look at Germany, if Germany wants the same social welfare benefit availability in 2050 that exists today, it will have to have every year between now and then 3 million immigrants. I mean, that figure of 3 million allows for many of them going home and changing and so on, but that's on averages what would be required, which is incredible. And it's one person's assessment, but I'm told it's reliable. So there are great opportunities elsewhere, but also there have to be in Spain. I mean, fertility rates in Spain are extremely low. And the result of this, I think it's at something like 1.4 per woman, as opposed to 2.1, which is required to sustain the population. And there are great enterprises in Spain. It's not that Spain can't produce great enterprises. Look at Zara. Look at the two big banks. Look at Telefonica. I mean, there are great international companies here. One other point I would make is that as far as I can understand the figures, what is one surprising fact about Spain is that Spain has been, there has been an emigration of highly qualified people at the same time as a continuing, although it has fallen off, but there has been immigration at the lower levels of education into Spain.
So there's been an emigration of highly prepared people, and then
immigration.
Immigration.
Yeah. And it's the same in my country. Yes. Over the last 4 years, we have had a significant immigration from other parts of Europe, while at the same time, many of our graduates are leaving. But also very necessary. I mean, in Britain, the medical system would collapse if you did not have huge numbers, relatively, of nurses coming from the developing world. Many of them, the most popular university is Granada. What would they? How would they settle, and what would they work at? But they leave Spain with a permanent affection for Spain and Spanish people, and maybe in the future it can have positive effects. And so some people who go away to study end up making very wise choices. My wife, for an example, came from Reynosa to Ireland to learn English. How could she have done better? You better not report that. We do executive training also in LSE. I think all universities have and should have an obligation, not an obligation, but should look positively and constructively at continuing education, part-time education, and connecting with society and particularly with businesses to ensure that their teaching is relevant to the future of the economy and the political system in general. Okay? Thank you, and thank you very much.
Thank you.